Thank you so very much, everyone, for joining us here on Global Television. This is Global Morning. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. As always, we're grateful to you for joining us here on the program. I am Uyi Agmofwegbe, and want to say we hope you had a great weekend. What's more, you're pumped and prepared for this week that has just started, at least for business people in particular. It's a Monday, and usually for many people, there's a bit of drag in the mornings, and that's understandable because over the weekend, at least for the most part of it, you've been able to hibernate a little, socialize, do a few things away from work and the hustle and bustle culture. So having to get back in the groove on Monday morning can be a bit of a drag, a challenge, but then it is what it is now. We are getting into the new week already, and we hope yours is starting out on a very, very promising and productive note. On this end, we're doing our bits to keep you engaged, informed, as well as enlightened on account of the kind of work that we do, and of course, just help you expand the frontiers a little further in terms of the sort of conversations we are having regarding developments in our dear country and beyond. Today, as always, we'll be looking at some of the big stories, particularly from last week. Some of them, well, kind of developing stories, and of course we have issues around politics, and then there is the state police element, which is one of the biggest developing stories in our dear nation as of today. The National Assembly has wrapped up its beats, has passed the bill. We saw that happen just last week. But as of today, we are understanding that the bill is now being moved further down to the sub-nationals, which means that the bill has now been sent to the states' houses of assembly. We understand all 36 of them will have to take a look at it, do a thorough job, just like the Senate's leadership has promised. And hopefully, by the time it's all set and done, we would have a piece of legislation in the hands that the president can assent to, which will now give force to what, for the most part, citizens have clamored for: local policing to make security a bit easier than it currently is. We understand, there have also been fears of how that governors are likely going to abuse it. They will exploit it, particularly around electionary period. But then I'm sure Nigerians and indeed government would have had to weigh their options, to look at both sides of the coin. What exactly do we want, right? Given the intensity and enormity of attacks that we've seen across this country. I mean, look at the evolution of insecurity. That's the best word I can find, really. And see how we have moved all the way from, at the point was just Boko Haram. Later, it evolved from Boko Haram. So it was now full-blown insurgency. And then there was a bit of another dimension to it, the banditry part of it. And when you look at banditry, there are now some other branches of it. 1 minute is Lakurawa, the next minute you're hearing say Malam. And all of these are terror criminal groups. And then you move from that, you see kidnapping, particularly in the southern part of the country. We are hearing now, for instance, that the Edo State government, the last few weeks in particular, has been very relentless, very vehement, and very resolved about how to deal with kidnapping, deal with cultism. So you have all of these, as it were, expression of criminality across virtually all the states in Nigeria today. I mean, not even Kogi State is left out, for example. So it simply means that Nigeria as a country is not in a good place as far as the security of lives and property is concerned. Therefore, Nigerians say this move being made by the Tinubu-led government to say, look, there's no better time to have state police than now, is not only timely, but it is one that is commendable and is highly, highly welcome. And then there is also the element of saying that, look, state governments must be held accountable beyond the traditional approach that we've seen the whole time. The arguments in that regard is that we can't leave security 100% in the hands of the federal government, because for the state governors in particular, their excuse has always been that, well, I'm not in charge of security apparatus in my state. Everything ends in Abuja. I can't give directives or orders or commands to Commissioner of Police, to GOC by state, to Director of DSS. Therefore, I'm helpless. My hands are tied. I'm overwhelmed, and I don't know what exactly to do. But in all of this, we understand that it appears the narrative is changing now, and hopefully this bill that is amending the Constitution regarding the policing structure in the system will change all of that, right? And shortly, my co-anchor will be introduced, and together we'll give you something that is worth your time here on the program this morning. We're taking a break now. When we return, you would again realize that there's so much loaded into the program today. It's a Monday. Thank you for joining us. Let's not forget in a hurry how that last week we had seen some moves that had been made. First of all, it was the United States saying that and some individuals, a couple of entities, particularly Bureau de Change outlets, had been indicted in financing of not just terrorism generically, but in this particular case, ISIS, which of course is quite disturbing to find that this is happening on our own very soil for a sovereign state. So that also raised concerns, especially given the fact that it was even the United States that broke this news, not even the Nigerian authorities. So the question is, have we been intelligence deficient in this regard, or is it possible that we have known this the whole time? Maybe the government, maybe the leadership of, intelligence or military in the country, but for whatever reason just didn't want to make it public. What exactly are we dealing with here? What's going on, all right? And then we also saw how that the federal government has now also made moves to say, look, we've got to move, legally speaking, against these people who have now been indicted in terms of financing terror in this country. And the CBN in particular says, look, the accounts of these entities, the accounts of these individuals must be frozen with immediate effect. And as such, the regulatory the regulatory bank has notified banks to say, look, if you have any of these persons, any of these entities, their proxies, their business partners, or anybody who has done business with them in such a way that they have 50% or more stake or equity in whatever liquid they have in your banks, you must, with immediate effect, freeze those accounts, all right? And we hope the banks are complying, because we're learning from experts, and again, given the reality we have in front of us today, that insecurity has become more complex than ever. The web, the network, the sophistication or sophistry that comes with it can be very overwhelming, and at the same time, one that makes your head spin. But we do hope that the federal government will be able to, more than ever before, as quickly as possible, find some sort of very forward-thinking partnership with not just the United States, but other entities, other nations, whether in Africa or beyond, in such a way that there can be some synergy to fight this monster called insecurity to a standstill. But then again, there is a bit of heartbreak, given that we find some countries, some nations within the Sahel who now say that they are no longer part of the ECOWAS system. Talking about countries like Burkina Faso, like Mali, like Niger. When this started just about 2 years ago, it looked like a joke, but today it has hit home quite close, because when you have these three countries, especially Niger, for example, saying that, look, we're leaving ECOWAS, the question is, can you have these three nations leave the ECOWAS, extricate themselves from, in a manner of speaking, events and engagements in the sub-region, and not have increase in attacks and insecurity? And again, add to that the fact that Niger has now, Burkina Faso has now formally said, look, We've cut ties with France. We have nothing to do with France. Diplomatic ties or relations no longer exist between us and our former colonial master. And we've seen Nigeria do that even earlier than this. So what are the implications of a situation like this one? Can we still say that that synergy that we saw a few years ago amongst these countries, including Nigeria right in the middle of it, still exists? Or is this now a matter of a bad situation becoming worse? This is very important because we're told that Nigeria, for example, has several porous borders. And when you have that kind of situation, it is only commonsensical to expect that your vulnerability level will not only be high in terms of attacks, in terms of infiltration, but you're going to have to continually deal with terrorists who seem to always be one step ahead of the authorities. And that is not a good place to be as a country. Because when you look at the northern part of our country today, especially societies or communities that are agrarian by default or in nature, what do you find? You realize that they can't even go to farm anymore because people have to be alive to go to farm. We've heard real time, firsthand from people who say they have to, quote unquote, bribe terrorists, bribe bandits. They have to pledge allegiance of some kind just to be able to access their farmlands. These are farmlands they legitimately own. Some of them have farmed on those lands across generations. But today, for whatever reasons, criminals are now saying you can't access those farms. We had heard stories of how that some local government areas had entirely been taken over, especially in the northeastern part of the country, by terrorists. We saw last year, for example, how even the governor of Borno State, Professor Umar, coming up to say that, look, we're overwhelmed. We need help from the military. We need increased military presence. All right. So when you find a Professor Zulum, the elected governor, the executive governor of the state, saying that, is an indication that a lot of more work needs to be done. And then you turn to the western part of the country, Ibadan, I mean, Oyo State in particular, you're asking yourself, have we been able to successfully find closure to what happened in Orire local government area where pupils and their teachers got kidnapped? The answer is a capital no, because as of today, the best we are seeing is the federal government saying that, look, we're on top of the situation, all of this will come to an end real soon. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the state government, led by Governor Seyi Makinde, says, we can assure you that we're working tirelessly, we're working day and night, round the clock to ensure that these persons are released unhurt, unconditionally. In fact, just last week, the governor said that the kidnapped persons, the abductees, had not been moved anywhere away from Oyo State. As a matter of fact, he said they are still within the Oyo Park. So what exactly is the challenge? At one point, the military was reported to have said that, look, it's not as if we can't lay hands on these people. It's not as if we can't pinpoint their precise location. But the challenge is they are using these abductees as human shield. So the question is, what options do we have? Are we stranded? Are we helpless? Are we stuck? These are some questions that Nigerians are asking. And the earlier we're able to provide answers to these questions, the better for us all. I think it's time to take a look at breakfasts this morning. As always, we get to bring you breakfast ideas here Monday through Fridays. It's not too early to much something. It's going to be a long day, and my mom says, well, breakfast is one meal you shouldn't bargain or negotiate over. So let's go share some breakfast idea with you on taste and texture.
Hello everyone and welcome to Taste and Texture. I am your chef for today, Saadatu Garba. Today we're going to prepare an easy Nigerian delicacy and we will be breaking down the entire process. In this episode of the program, we will be preparing oatmeal with fruits. Oatmeal is always a delicious and simple breakfast option. This one is a recipe that is filling, delicious and nutritious, especially when taken with fruits. Also, this breakfast oatmeal can be made in under 5 minutes by anyone. In addition to the speed and ease of making it, it is also fun to make. Main supplies: raw oats, milk, sugar or honey, water, banana, coconut chips, apple, cashew nuts. Step 1. Place a clean pot on the stove and add enough water to cook the oats. Step 2. Bring your water to a boil and add the oats while stirring gently to avoid lumps and burning. Add more water if the oats is too thick to the consistency you prefer. Step 3. When your oats is cooked, add honey or sugar, then add your milk and mix properly. Step 4. Dish your prepared oats into a bowl. Step 5. Dice your apple into small bits. Peel and slice your bananas, then add into your bowl of oats. That's it. Your oatmeal breakfast is done and ready for consumption. Now it's all yours to enjoy. That's it on today's episode of the program Taste and Texture. Hope you will try this recipe in your various homes and hope you enjoyed the program. Join me same time next week for another episode of the program. I am Saadatu Garba. Thank you for watching and I'll be catching you on the next exciting meal.
I can assure you that I'm not very big on oats, but people who are say that, it's quite nice, especially for breakfast, such as a Monday morning, like we have it right now. So you want to try that out, who knows? There's no harm in trying, right? We'd like to say a big thank you to the team that puts this together for us every other weekday, the Taste and Texture team. All right, now time to catch some motivation, but before we get there, let's talk a little about the registration of a couple of parties. Maybe the biggest of them in terms of positioning is the NDC. All right, the NDC is a party many people before now believed, would most likely lead the pack of opposition parties. But with this deregistration order from a federal high court just last week to INEC, the question is, where do we go from here? What happens going forward? All right, will the NDC remain deregistered? Of course, we are hearing that appeal is ongoing, right? Then what will INEC do? Because INEC up until now has recognized the party. So is INEC going to comply with that order, or is INEC going to appeal? Is INEC going to join the NDC, or is NDC going to join INEC? But most likely INEC will join NDC as appellant in this case. And this is more interesting given that elections are around the corner. The opposition has been bleeding for a while. Many people say opposition parties in Nigeria are in disarray. First, because of the internal wrangling each of them has, all right, on the inside. The second is perhaps how that the APC has become some sort of political behemoth right now. So it's quite a steep climb for the opposition. For many people, with a combination of Atiku Abubakar and Rotimi Amechi in the ADC, and then the duo of Peter Obi and Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso in the NDC, the APC is going to have to face a lot of heat going into the election. But the question is, with all of these political intrigues we're saying, will that at any point be the case? Well, we wait to see. However, the important thing going on, the more important thing going forward is the participation of citizens in the electoral process in Nigeria. As it stands today, for example, how many persons have been registered to vote? How many voter cards do we have in the hands of voters? Valid PVCs. How many do we have with INEC that have not been collected across this country? By the time it's all said and done on the eve of election in 2027, how many registered voters on the ground will Nigeria have? This is important because democracy is supposed to be a participatory system of government. But how can you participate when you are not a part of the process, when you don't even have something as basic, as elementary as the permanent voter cards? We do hope that Nigerians will respond by understanding that they have a stake in not just democracy, but in the process. Nigerians must own the process, and to do that, Nigerians must also put in the work. All right, let's go join a man who puts in the work every other day for us here on Global Television. Ramsey Enoch Agbo now brings us Heart to Heart Inspirational.
Hello and welcome to another moment of Heart to Heart Inspirational. Let's talk heart to heart a little bit, because a lot of people have not been able to bounce back after the last time they failed. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Welcome to Heart Inspirationals. Failure is a feedback and not a funeral. I want to say that again because of people who failed. Some people fell and they remain on the ground. They never got up again because of what they feel people around them are going to say. But then failure is a feedback. And that's why some people tell you all the time that whatever happens, all right, there is a lecture from every lesson. You know, whatever happens to you in life, there is something that you are meant to learn from it, either positively or negative thing that you need to take cognizance of and be watchful as you move on the journey of life. So I just want to tell you today that failure is a feedback and not a funeral. What kind of feedback did you get from that last failure? Have you even tried anything at all? Have you experienced failure before? If you've not experienced failure before, it means you need to try harder, because on this journey of destiny, people who are successful today are people who have failed a number of times and they got up on their feet, learned from their mistake, and their mistake became a stepping stone for them, and of course they are where they are today. Why? Because they never allow that failure to become a funeral to their dream. What am I emphasizing? As a matter of fact, let's normalize something today, all right? Let's normalize something today. A failure, you've heard about it all the time. Okay, this person is a failure, that person is a failure. You know, people assess their counterparts, their neighbors, their brothers, their colleagues differently with different perspectives. Some persons already have been tagged as failure, and that has been affecting a lot of people. But then, have you accepted that you are a failure? That somebody told you are a failure does not make you a failure until you accept that you are a failure. All right, not because it feels good, yeah, but because it is necessary. Sometimes, you know, it's risk. It's risk. If you have taken a risk before, and of course, it didn't go well the way you think it was going to go, and you failed, it doesn't mean that is a funeral. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I was speaking with someone a few days ago, yeah, and we're talking about a particular business, and the young man told me, now I am successful, but then during my wilderness experience, when I was in the workshop, nobody knew anything about me. When I was failing over and over and over again, I lost money several times. I had to stay indoors and think of the next thing to do. He failed severally until he said, no, I am not going to allow this failure become a funeral. My dream is not going to be cut short by this failure. And he stood on his ground. Consistency. I must always emphasize consistency anytime I come up to speak to anyone on Heart to Heart, because it is very important. If you want to succeed in life, then consistency and discipline is very important. But the bottom line is this: nobody ever succeeds without first stumbling. Yes. Stumble, then you stand again. Even every little child, before a child starts walking, you stand them up, you see them, they walk a little bit, they fall. They walk a little bit, they fall until their leg gets stabled on the ground. All right? And you see them walking firmly. Then before you know it, they start running. The same thing is applicable to life. So failure, as a matter of fact, is not proof that you can't. All right, it's not a proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you tried. It's a proof that you tried. When you fail, it means you tried and you failed. It doesn't mean that's the end. It reveals what doesn't work and refine what eventually would work later. That's what failure does. Anytime you fail, you know that, yes, this one does not work. Let me try the other one. It gives you a focus. It makes you know that, yes, if I go this way, I'm going to fail again. So I need to do something else. It's only a fool that do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. If you are doing one thing the same way all the time, you get the same result. You need to apply technicality, strategy, discipline, excellence every time. Whatever you do, let that touch of excellence be in your head. All right? So that when you fail in one thing, you try doing it the other way. But then don't allow that first, second, third, fourth failure be your funeral. Let your dream and your vision and your talent not be buried because you failed. Because that failure is trying to refine you. It's trying to build something in you. What do you have to do? I want you to know that failure, what it does is that it reveals what doesn't work and refines what eventually will work. But you need to have this mentality. Every setback is information. If you are willing to learn, yes, that's what it means. Every setback that you've had in the past is an information. Because there is something you need to learn from every setback, from every failure. Everyone throwing stones at you right now is because they know you are going somewhere. Let me tell you the truth. We have a lot of friendly enemies these days. Some people are smiling with you, but then they are not interested in your success. What they say behind you, if you hear it, hey, but then that shouldn't deter you. That shouldn't deter you because you have a destination. So every setback is information if you are willing to learn, because most people don't fail because they are incapable. That you failed, it's not because you are incapable, but because you are going somewhere, because you are dogged, because you are rugged, because you are determined, because you are focused, because you have a dream, you have a vision, something you are pursuing and something you want to get. You have a target. So when people like that fail, they fail because they don't stop. But if you stop anytime soon, it means that failure has gotten to you. Let me give you an illustration, for instance. A GPS recalculates when you miss a turn. It doesn't shut down. All right? Failure, in other words, simply means it's time to adjust. Anytime you fail, the message is, no, I need to adjust. This principle, this procedure, this formula is not working. I need to adjust. There is something I need to do so that I don't fail again. That's what it means. Anytime you fail, there is a message. It is telling you it is time to adjust the procedure. It is time to re-strategize. That's what it means. All right, so you don't need to abandon your journey because you failed. There is a practical mindset shift that you need to have, and this is it. Number one, stop attaching shame to failure. Yes, stop attaching shame to failure. Some people, when they fail, they feel shy. Oh no, I'm not going to get on that stage again. They will laugh at me. No, I'm not going to do that business again. People will laugh at me. People will mock me. The same people will celebrate and want to identify with you if you are a success. So there should be a mindset and a mind shift for you. Extra lessons instead of self-criticism. Stop criticizing yourself because you failed. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people with other people because you failed. That you failed. Failure is not a funeral. Stop burying yourself in shame and criticism. Try again. Make it better. Make it wiser. Make it stronger. That's what it means. All right? Failure is tuition paid for future success. That is a quote that I'm bringing to you now. Failure, I said, is what? Is tuition paid for future success. But if you don't pay, if you go to school now, all right, 100 level, you need to pay a tuition in 100 level. You get to 200, you pay another tuition before you can get to 300 level. In every of this level, there are tuitions to pay. If you want to change levels in life, don't be scared of failure. If you are scared of failure, you will never try anything good. So what you have to do? Keep pushing. Don't bury your dream because of one mistake that you made. I'll keep saying this. Learn, rise, and move forward. Don't worry about what people are saying. Don't worry about the situation around you. Don't think, oh, I have failed, I don't need to try it again. Keep trying. Change the strategy. Become wiser. Failure make you wiser. Because you walk through this way and you fail, you apply this strategy, this technique, this principle, this formula, and you failed. You will now need to re-strategize. Use another formula. All right? Until you get to your success. Until you get to what you want to achieve in life. All right? So you need to know that anytime you fail, it's a signal that you need to turn. You need to do something again. You need to re-strategize. You need to improvise, come up with something new. As a matter of fact, failure is not the best option for you. So what you have to do? Try as much as possible, right, to be sincere in everything that you do. Because if you want to please people, it will be disastrous. You don't need to please anyone, all right? You don't need to please anyone. It is when you're thinking about pleasing people that when you stumble, you say, oh, I've disappointed this person. I've disappointed even people who really love you, who want you to be successful. By the time you fail, instead of them condemning you, they will come and encourage you to do better. And that's the reason you need mentors. That's the reason you need people to talk to per time. All right? You need to talk to people. See, if you are embarking on a project, I emphasize mentorship all the time. I was speaking with a friend a few days ago and I told the person, if I want to do this thing you're doing now, it is going to be express for me. It's going to be easier. I may have hitches. There might be some times where you have losses or maybe failure at some point, but then you have people to ask questions. I have someone to ask questions. Hey, I got hooked here. What do I do? Even the disaster is not going to be as disastrous as it would have been if you never have anyone to guide you on this journey of destiny. You really need people, okay? Because as your association determine your acceleration in life, okay? And your friends, you need to be careful with the kind of friends you have. If you have a bad friend, it is disaster. If you have a good friend, it means you have a shoulder to lean on, a shoulder to stand on and be tall so that you can get to that success that you are running after, that you are pursuing. Yes, congratulations, everyone. You are a success going somewhere to happen. Don't allow anything stop you on the way. Not failure, not criticism. Don't bury yourself because you failed. Failure is not funeral. Bye-bye for now and have a beautiful day.
I'd like to say a big thank you to Ramsey Enoch Agbo for always coming through with this sort of something more than motivation, just to drive us towards our goal with each day that passes. Well, I'm joined by Priscilla Chineye. I was going to say Chineye or Basi. It's so good to see you, Priscilla. I'm sure you had a...
Well, it was. We don't have a choice. But to have a great weekend.
You have to make it great.
You just have to make it great as an adult.
Oh, that also comes in the park.
Yeah.
Of being an adult.
It's called in the park. So
wow.
It was good. We thank God. And I mean, good morning, viewers. Good to have you. I'm not saying join us, but good to have you back. It was.
So you miss the days your mom and your dad were making it great for you.
Yeah.
Because now you have to make it great for yourself and others.
It's over. It's quite the irony of life.
Yeah, that phase is closed.
Close forever.
Yeah.
Gosh. as well.
Well, hopefully we're able to make it great for ourselves every other weekend, and then of course for those we care about and those around us. All right, now we'll take a break so we can bring you newspaper review.
All right, it's right about time we take you to the very segment where we look at issues on across the national dailies, and we're starting this morning with the Punch newspaper with the first story above the nameplate, top left corner. It reads, 5-month crude export fetch Nigeria 20 trillion naira. Okay. So I say congratulations to Nigeria and not Nigerians.
Just say it in whisper or in hushed tone.
how are we able to make this much money, and did anything really change?
Let's just say we're an industrious nation.
We're an industrious nation.
Right.
But not, we're not getting the dividend of the industry.
It takes time. There's something called incubation process.
Okay, we're incubating.
Right.
Well, I hope it doesn't go exceed 9 months. Next story, 1.34 trillion Nigerians denied UK visas in 21 years. Well, we want to find out why by looking at page 4 of that very paper. Operation Osaye. Please help kidnappers in Lagos or in the forest. Details on page 9. Besides the nameplate, we have state police as the kicker. NAS sends bill to 36 state assembly. Details on page 9. Okay, it looks like that motion is in progress and will yield its desired fruits soonest. Now let's go to the big story that has Obi Kwankwaso lead NDC's battle against deregistration.
Right.
Are we going to do this again? I thought it was over. Well, it's not over until it's over.
But the Englishman says that, exactly.
So, some writers say Obi Kwankwaso Dixon in marathon meetings as NC files appeal today. Opposition party insists judgment won't stand. Vows to 2027 ballot battle. Lawyers push speedy appeal as court ruling threatens NDC's bid. I think this is really going to be an eye-opener for the NDC. I mean, they were already feeling like people that have conquered and they were already trying to, focus on unnecessary battles,
Right.
not knowing that there was a battle before them, or there is a battle before them that they need to join forces together to fight. So this would again bring that unity that they desire or they need, not even
Right. So it's going to be more like an issue of necessity for them to unite at this point.
Exactly. So it's more of disappointment being a blessing,
Right.
because unity is what is needed for any party to emerge.
Because a house divided against itself cannot
Cannot
stand.
stand. So things like this just makes Nigeria test you and brings out the right virtues.
So you're saying they are being tested by Nigeria?
Yeah, they're tested by Nigeria. But we hope they overcome this. I really do hope. Chaos as flooding shuts Lagos Airport temporary terminal. Details on page 21. Kogi teacher dies after alleged assault for disciplining pupil. On page 9 is where you see that detail. Finally, we have Providus Unity Bank begins operations after merger. Providus Unity. Well, that detail is right there on page 21. When things like this happen, I usually wonder what happens to some of the staff, because there will be a lot of staff retrenchment because of this. So it will really affect some people, and there's been an opportunity for some people to step up higher. It will be an opportunity for some people to refine and rediscover their reinvent themselves. Exactly. But
incidentally, when you find this sort of merger, especially as it has to do with the financial sector, there's always a lot of, you have series of talks that happen behind the scenes as to integration and reintegration. Sometimes it's merger, sometimes it's outright acquisition. So one bank merges with another bank, what they call MIA, all right? The another instance is when one bank buys the other bank over. I think most times where you have an issue is when it's, as it were, a buyover, so to say, when a bank has to swallow another bank. You are likely to have layoffs. Otherwise, there's the issue of, if we are merging, it means we are going to expand as well. So we are retaining all our branches in Nigeria and offshore. That also means that we still need these hands to work with us. The only thing we now have to look at is to see if there's any need, in light of this new arrangement, to review sort of service conditions, or what they call condition of service. Do we need to bump their pay? Do we need to review downward? Do we need to reassign, redeploy? It's quite a complex process, but the private sector knows how to do these things.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And I think those are about the headlines we have on the Punch newspaper.
Right.
Next point of call is the Daily Trust.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Trust newspaper for you. Top left corner first, it says petrol price still high, says FCCPC, that's the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council. We understand the agency is now saying that, look, if marketers do not adjust prices to reflect the reality of the markets, they are going to be met with very stiff sanctions. Right, on page 27 is where you find those details. I know Priscilla has doubts, but you'll be shocked by what the council, might do.
No, it's good news to see this coming from the FCCPC. I mean, before now, prior to now, you would not see these people react to fuel-related issues.
As if it was not their concern.
As if it was not their concern. So for the very first time, I'm seeing the FCCPC. I don't know if they have, but this is my first time seeing them, reacting to fuel price.
Right.
At the same time, this also reflects Nigerians, the heart and the state and the mindset of the typical Nigerian man. You blame the government, you blame everyone but yourself. Everybody's responsible.
Right.
When it's time to rip people off, you feel like it's a blessing in disguise. You feel like you're favored.
Like when you tell us it's old stock.
Exactly. You just feel like, thank God for
it's opening.
Joseph.
Prayer answered,
Yeah, you see, I was able to store. This is wisdom, and this is, not good for everyone to interpret it and make it
and justify this sort of extortion.
Exactly. But this is extortion. This is nothing but extortion.
Right.
The price of this have come down. We expect to see fuel. We expect to see it reflect in transportation. We expect to see it reflect in the price of goods in the market. But no, we don't want. And yet we complain that the price of things are up. So
I think it's time to get up for it. All right, let's make progress on the front page of the Daily Trust newspaper for you. Next headline here reads, no comments on arrest of bandits returning from Hajj. That's according to Katsina State government. Again, you find those details on page 10. How gang murdered Benue Mieti Allah chair friend. We're hearing that the Benue State government is saying it's on top of this situation, and those found wanting or culpable will be brought to justice. The Secretary to Government of the Federation, Senator Akume, has also lent his voice to it because this happened on his home soil, his home state, right? Do we have more to look at here? But it seems that will be all from the Daily Trust this morning. Please read up details and stay ahead of the news today. As we now take a look at the next paper, the Nigerian Tribune.
Okay, the Nigerian Tribune has its first story above the nameplate, and it reads, Providus Unity, same story replicated here. Providus Unity Bank set to commence operations as one unified institution. I really do hope it was not also directly from the CBN, because I was seeing instances where the CBN gives, directive or suggestions of
right. But you see, that's the thing that makes a regulatory oversight very crucial, right? So the CBN has a mandate to look at what they call the health of the banks from time to time. So there are no banks that are healthy. Banks where you don't have any threats, no exposure, as they say in finance. Banks, of course, a different category now that are a bit exposed, that are weak, that need support. So they can say, okay, well, what probably we'll have to do is to have these banks merge, right? Then you now have another category where you say, well, these banks are already exposed. In fact, bad loans are killing these banks. So what do? You sell them off. The CBN has a mandate to do that, right? Because at the end of the day, these are depositors' money, and CBN has a responsibility to protect depositors. And also, you have the NDIC that also ensures that no matter what happens to banks in Nigeria today, monies, of depositors don't go into a hole or voicemail, as we call it. All right. So to that extent, the CBN wants to ensure that it does all of this and does it very well, best practice, as they say. The CBN also has a responsibility to intervene where there's leadership crisis in the bank. For example, we've seen cases where there was conflict in boards of some banks, right? We saw that with big banks even. So CBN had to intervene to say, look, we're dissolving the board and we are, as it were, setting up a board, an interim board, just to ensure that there's no vacuum, because they say life does not allow for lacuna, that sort of thing. So what the CBN does is beyond just telling banks how much to sell dollar at. It's quite a potpourri of responsibilities, right?
Well, this is one of it's. Like I said, I hope this is a decision that
favors depositors and doesn't leave any. The sector at a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, let's continue to look at the papers for you. Okay, you have the paper.
I have the paper here. So the next story would be Operation Kosaye Ogun Lagos Hill Police onslaught against criminals. Police arrest 88, rescue 5 kidnapped victims. Details on page 25. Oshun CSOs suspend protests, give IGP 72 hours to redeploy police commissioners. Details on page 4. Concerns over high cost of petrol. Despite decline in global oil rates, products still sells between 1,190 and 1,210. FCCPC frowns on exploitation in oil markets to sanction profiteers. When the Dangote refinery came, one of the hopes the Nigerians had were, we now have our own,
right?
At least even if we don't have our own local government, own refinery structure and all of that, we have a Nigerian that understands the plight of Nigerians, that will be able to sympathize, and they put up all the marketing strategy to convince Nigerians that we are here to help you. So I heard that there are people that even boycott the Dangote to go and buy from maybe to go and buy internationally. Yeah, they go out there, buy, and they buy it at a very cheap price, and they come to Nigeria and sell. So it will mean that we need a Dangote now that says he processes the crude in his refinery to call them to order. Because if he gave us that hope at that point to say, we're going to do this, in Nigeria, we don't have to go out, everything's going to happen here, and then he's able to do it, I think it will bring these marketers to their senses. But the fact that this is happening now means that maybe Dangote himself is not given a fair price. I don't know about that. I know that Dangote uses the MRS filling station and maybe one other
as retail outlets.
So where is Dangote stand in all of this? How much is Dangote selling his fuel at MRS filling station and all his outlets that he uses? If he's still selling at the 1,900 price or almost 2,000.
No, last we checked, he has cut it down by 75 naira.
It didn't still make so much difference.
And then he cut it down further a few days later. Okay, so here's the thing, Priscilla. 75 naira on a product that before I was selling for, let's say, 1,250.
Exactly.
It's a lot of money. It makes a lot of difference in terms of the margin, right? Because Nigerians should not be unrealistic enough to think that.
You're saying as much as 1,400.
Exactly. So the man says a gantry price is now reviewed downward by 75 naira. Okay. So one would have thought that those outlets, at least the MRS, like you mentioned, with a few other outlets, would also reflect that in the price at which they sell to consumers, I mean the end users. Yeah. But whether they have done that or not is left to be seen, which is the reason we're seeing the FCCPs now intervening to say, look, if you do not do the right thing, we're coming with a big hammer.
Exactly. So I really feel like we need to hold. I know Dangote is a private businessman.
Right.
He's doing his business.
He's profit oriented.
He's profit oriented. But at the same time, he's a Nigerian. Right. At the same time, we should also, make sure that we're not trying to do business to exploit people, because this is extorting people. If we have the price of oil come down at the point it came down, Nigerians are supposed to be one of the beneficiaries of that instant drop in price, because we have the crude.
Right.
We have the crude. So we don't have any excuse. The problem is the refining, right? We have to go and refine. Well, we have the crude in Nigeria,
so why are we still suffering?
Why are we still suffering? Why are we not benefiting? As soon as that whole crisis ended, as soon as there was a peace talk between Iran and the US, Nigerians were supposed to be smiling with that result, because we are supposed to be one of the beneficiaries of that peace talk. But the reverse is the case, and it's really concerning. So it shows that this is not just a government problem. Whatever it is we're going through in Nigeria is not the government problem alone. We contribute to it. We have people that are benefiting from lack. We have people that are benefiting from scarcity.
Right.
And when that thing is about to come to an end, a frown, they don't want it to end.
So they fight it.
They fight it. More like they are happy when there is war somewhere. I don't even know what. I mean, it's concerning. But
you know there's a book called The Economics of War.
Yes, I know.
Okay, but not read it this morning.
Maybe we'll have a lot of them in Nigeria that have read that book. Okay, let's go to the next story. Ogun links Ijebu-Ode gas emission to geological fault line. I heard a school had to vacate the premises of, vacate their premises basically because of this gas emission, constant gas emission and all of that. And
because of the risks it poses.
So it's been traced, and I hope it comes to a total halt. Tinubu Sanwo-Olu Bode George honor Herbert Macaulay 80 years after. Page 23 is verified. Well, I like Nigeria. I like our leaders. They are very, very loyal.